Adelia?
Guns, yeah.
We had a gun wrangler. We had a professional there that owned, I don't even know if this is working or not, but he owns about 150 guns, and he came out and we did an extensive safety meeting, and then we fired his blanks. And we also, for like the shots where it looked like it was hitting the wall next to him, it was dust balls.
That's
And so dust balls and blanks. That's how we did it.
How did you get the light and what they got? Is that part of that?
Some of it was real. The muzzle flash in a lot of the shots was real. And on the gun with the silencer, because the silencer was fake, it wouldn't actually fire. So the muzzle flashes are added in post.
For the movie still, I have to say that it was masterful, especially in the sense that you really grasped the concept on film of less is more, and how profound it could be simply with the right type of facial expressions, combined with your lighting, those type of effects, that the emotions and the ways of the emotions that can be seen in various contexts throughout life. So that was
Thank you. I can't take too much credit. Chandler and Ashley are sitting right there, and they did amazing. Because they showed up most days. And
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing today? I was like, great. I have this part of the movie I want to do, and they had to put up with me trying to act it out. Or I made a couple of cameos, so you can see that probably wasn't too good for them. But thank you. That means a lot to me. That's
sure.
the nicest thing in the
What was
world.
the inspiration? Maybe there was a real story or something, some kind of inspiration for it.
Yeah, so my inspiration is pretty personal. My grandparents have been married like 60-some years. My parents are, I'm sorry they're here, and I can't remember how many years. It's 67. I'm not going to do math. But basically, my mom got sick last semester, and she had ended up getting cancer removed. It was a whole big thing. And when I saw my parents in the hospital together, the relationship, I felt like even though it was being tested, I saw the best things come out of it. And this idea just kind of came to me from them, and yeah. Thanks, guys.
Another question here?
The pickpocket movie started with a couple of guys with their back to the camera, and I couldn't help but notice throughout the evening, film after film had shots of folks with their backs to the camera at some point. I was just curious as to whether that was random coincidence or not.
Are you talking about between films as well? Or
I mean, inside them. If it's coincidence, it's coincidence, but it was a really interesting kind of motif that seemed to be repeating itself throughout.
Right, that was probably coincidence. Yeah, we didn't really discuss it much, but
no, I mean,
I think the beauty of film is that it's not theater, so you don't have to cheat out
Thank
the
you.
audience.
Thank you.
So that's why I think it was I think it was just a coincidence, yes. But back to the audience in film, I think is appropriate most of the time. Some of the time.
I'm not saying it's benefit, just that it was
Okay.
A lot of following shots and that kind of thing. Is that what you're talking about, sort of following people?
right, that was part of it was because although that what I attempted to do, I hope it succeeded, was that was actually 5 different shots in that film. Although I tried to make it look like it was one flowing shot. So that was part of it. I had to continually
is for.
This is a question that I'll direct to Josh, because I noticed it most in your film, although I would be happy to hear about this from many of you. And it's sort of a technical question, but there was one portion of your movie, Josh, in which when I was seeing emulated, it looked to me as though it looked like film. It didn't look like digital video. It looked like cellular. And I'm not sure whether this was conscious. There was a portion of the sequence that involved, it was shot towards the evening, and it was right before the wandering guy with the guitar fell asleep. And it was beautiful. I mean, I really was struck by it. Just that, this sort of atmosphere and texture of that sequence of the image. I don't know if that was conscious in your work. I don't know if you were using the camera or any of the ways you were choosing when to shoot or how to set your, I don't know the technology at all personally. So I don't know if that was something that you in that, again, that sequence, that part of the film, or any of you in any of your movies were trying to, again, emulate cinema and say, although I'm shooting in one kind of, technology or style or whatever, I want it to look like something else. Mallory had a section that resembled that as well. And again, this is regarding to Josh. The answer might be no, but
Yeah, for that particular scene and throughout the entire scene, there's particular scenes that I wanted them to be darker. So all of them were shot in the day, and for that, I just down the contrast and brightness of the film, and there were certain parts, like in flashbacks, that I added grain to the shot to convey a different image. And the particular cameras that we were using for a class, I actually don't know the number of the camera. Okay, the Panasonic cameras, and those cameras have the most unique sort of look to them, in that they do have a little bit of grain. And at first, I was like, we're at such a disadvantage because we're trying to shoot low light, but they do shoot great at low light situations, but they also have this consistency in the look. And there were some shots that I used DSLR cameras because I didn't have access to the Panasonic, but I added a little bit of grain back in to match the texture of those cameras. So the Panasonic was a great use, and actually, most of us had access to Steadicams. So to answer the last question, to shed some light on why we had over-the-shoulder shots, is because we had access to Steadicams, which allowed us to do POVs and over-the-shoulders, which are not possible without the counterweights. So. Gentleman in the back there. That's you.
This one's from Mike. Mike, your room was really, really good. I really liked your film. It was fantastic. And I was wondering if you considered maybe expanding it into expanding the script and maybe making it into
Actually, that is how it started. It was an idea for a feature that I kind of just took, and I needed an idea for a short film this semester, and I'm not good at just coming up with ideas on the spot. So I just kind of went back to something that I liked before.
Yeah, we in post-production, we tried to make the whole paper clearer. We just, the way it was shot, it was in low light. But on the paper, it's the diagnosis for some disease. But yeah, last night we were trying to just work on it, try and make it clearer. It just didn't happen, really.
How are you inspired to take the ordinary and just elevate it to up early, or you know, and like, but I'm not gonna get out of bed, or and like when you're brushing your teeth and when you're fixing your, I know like there were some points where it seemed like, why are we seeing her like literally take off her pants and sit on the toilet for like 10 minutes? You know, but I appreciate those moments, and so I wanted to put it to film, and the film is dedicated to my good friend, ex-girlfriend, but and it reminded me a lot of our relationship over the summer, and just having those lazy Sunday mornings and being able to just kind of like savor those moments.
Can I ask a question? What I loved about the film, though, was I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know who they were. I was following her through the world, but there was, for me, this kind of sense of tension because I didn't know what could happen at any moment. And I'm curious as to whether that was intentional or, in other words, it turned out to be this sort of wonderful morning, but until we discovered that it was, we didn't really know what was going to happen. I'm curious as to how much of that was intentional or
Well, the film is tied to the story of Persephone, a Greek mythology reference, very loosely, but you know, still there. And so there's kind of this transition between having this wintry kind of like alone, like this isolation film, because you're not really sure if there's someone else in the bed with her, you know, until like she wakes up and like nudges someone, and you don't see the person for like what feels like forever. and then you don't have any dialogue for a long time, and so it's just, I was just kind of working through this isolation into this like awakening, this spring-like awakening, because if anyone doesn't know, Persephone was taken, that's why we have seasons, so winter, or fall and winter is when she goes down to Hades, and her mother is Demeter, she's the goddess of the harvest, and so everything is like barren and lonely, and then by springtime comes, that's when Persephone is brought back to the earth, returned to her mother, and so we have like this like new life, and so that's kind of like why towards the end we have like this. She's talking to people. She's the farmers market's like that transition. I don't know if that really explains it.
Other questions?
Sure, in the back there, sir.
I just want to hear a number from each one of you, left to right. Estimated hours.
Oh God.
really.
Just throw a number, just a number.
Estimated. Jeez. Do you want like?
Where do you want to start?
Whole number. I want to hear how many hours you think you spent on this.
Does that include this class?
So your side, yeah?
I don't know. Like, it will be hours, I think, related to, like, day-wise.
Okay, I'd say I had like 4 filming days, and then over the course of like a certain amount of weeks, like editing wise, probably, I don't know, a lot. But we all spent the entire semester like in pre-production and writing, and so you can't really like get a number, I don't think. I mean, you could try, but I mean, it was a semester process. It wasn't. I spent 12 hours doing this. But someone else say something.
Too many hours.
Yeah, that's.
I've had 4 hours sleep in 2 days, the past 2 days. And I think this has been like, I did my thesis last semester. This has been like 3 of those. Like, it's just, but this is fun though. Like, it's hard, but it's nice, so it's a lot of time.
Probably less than everybody else. If you notice, the times are on that sheet, and mine's half the time of the next one. So, but I spent a lot of time in the setting up my shots because I did have to make it all flow together as one shot. So I spent a lot at the beginning, but a lot less at the end.
The train track scene alone took 5 separate shooting days. 20 hours of filming. And almost a $2,000 fine. The train tracks that were on, my brother was doing, there's one shot that I took out that he's actually touching the train. It's very illegal, and there was a guy at one point who approached us, and a very legitimate told us that if we stayed at that train track, we'd probably be fined $2,000, but he was a nice guy. And so he said, just leave as soon as possible. We filmed another 2 days on the train. So, yeah.
Next time, take the American haircut. Don't worry.
You didn't know.
Sorry.
For me, I started with a totally different idea. I was going to do something similar to Dante's Inferno, with like an elevator movie, where this guy would go down all these different levels and it'd be a different like flashback of his life, ultimately leading to hell. But I am not that dark, so I went somewhere a little funnier in the backseat of a cab, and I would have liked to shot a lot more, but the fact was my actors were way too busy with schoolwork and everything, so it just didn't work out as I wanted it to. But overall, I spent probably 5 or 6 days shooting, and then I couldn't tell you how long I've been editing this.
Yeah, it's a very good question. I'm glad you asked that, because everyone here right now, I see most of you guys in the lab at 4 a.m. It was just disgusting. It's terrible. I spent alone maybe 3 nights alone in the lab, wasting my time, not wasting, sorry, using my time. I'm a history major, and I'm very glad I used it during this, because I love this, and my actor's fantastic. You guys, in the front, thank you. I am so glad I used my time doing this at all. This was by far the best use of my time, and I am so happy I did it. So, your answer, 5 nights, I want to say, in consecutive nights, too, which is the sad part. I wish I had more time, because I shot within a week, and which is really frustrating, because shooting within a week is very hard, and then editing within that same, after the week, so 3 days. So yeah, I'd say about 5 days of shooting and editing, so yeah. But I don't miss 1 second of it. I love it all, so.
I think I mean, we've all answered clearly, we've all spent a lot of time. I think the one thing, though, that was hard about it was that you're never emotionally separated from it. So for better or for worse, we've had this all on our shoulders for an entire semester. And I mean, I'm a senior, and there were many times when, you don't go out because you're filming for a day and you're completely gone, or, and people don't quite understand that, I mean, we wrote, directed, edited, produced, found the props, found the makeup, did the editing. We literally did everything by ourselves. So whether you were actually filming, you were actually editing, I think for a lot of us, the emotional time spent considering what you're doing and feeling the responsibility was astronomical. So it was, yeah.
I spent quite a few hours doing this. I think in total it'd be like 3-4 days of shooting and a very long time editing together.
One thing I don't think we've really talked about so far is the collaborative aspect of it, just being there for each other. Like, there were definite days where it's like, okay, that was just a 7-hour shoot. And then a few days later, it's another 7-hour shoot for somebody else's project. And it's like, I'm not really inventing my own thing. But it's not like you feel bad about helping anybody else, or you feel like you've wasted your time, because everybody's kind of helping each other, and you want to see everybody else succeed. So it was a fun time.
Yeah. Well, you cast the films too. You spent a lot of time working.
A lot of time. Casting was very hard.
And the casting is one of those times. It's like, okay, well, you wrote this film, and why didn't you shoot it earlier? So you weren't editing down to like the last days, the last week, But it takes a long time to get actresses. I literally got my lead actress, like 3-4 days before I shot. Like, she didn't have the script that long. My other actress dropped out. I had to pull another. Like, Haley, the one in the bed, like, she was my special. And she was like, I'll do it for you. And like, she went hard. And I really appreciate it, because she's not even gay. And she had to go like this. She was making out with this woman. I'm like, Jesus. But, you know, like that really is what that really, like, yeah, something right now. But that, just casting and getting people to be in these films and then working around these schedules, you know, are you available here? Are you available there? You know, like, that's the time. You know,
So triple thanks to our actors who are actually even still here, like,
Yeah.
you literally saved our lives.
By far, for watching my film, I just thank Earl filled in for my. I was screwed. I had a really set up kind of cast, and I really was set on it. I was excited about working with it, and I had it's kind of messed with our schedule, but we have spring break about 2 weeks. 2 weeks into shooting our fucking film, which makes no sense. So my main actor dropped out. And I had about 3 weeks of film and edit, which is unreasonable. And Earl just came out of nowhere and saved my ass, and I thought he did a great job. You too, Chris, of course. But I think, Earl, you emulated the character fantastically, and I really am glad you came to my fucking production. So, cheers to you. You!
This is personal time.
It's very personal because I was otherwise screwed, so you know, it really does mean a lot to me, so thank you.
Awesome.
Any other questions?
Anything else?
Yeah, about, let's see, Worth Fighting For. Very good story. I think it really sort of developed very well, came together very smoothly. And at the same time, it was also very interesting and very engaging. I feel that was kind of personalized too, so is there a chance that maybe you can share some of your inspiration for that?
Usually when, you know, when in the moment, it's less realized. In retrospect, I evaluated everything I wrote and it completely reflected my life. With Sam, his character, he was mentioning his mom was diagnosed with cancer. And at first it was, I don't think it is.
We can hear you all the way to the back.
Okay, good. Okay. So I thought it was like an arbitrary thing. I'm just gonna say that his mom had cancer. My mom actually had cancer. She was diagnosed in 2007, and she passed away. So in the movie, you see at the very end in the credits that he's reflecting on his mom. And you know, there was a lot of alternative shots that I was trying to get, but ultimately I settled for that. And I was hoping that I could convey clearly to people what was going on. In terms of Brandon's character, his inability to express himself when going through that mourning process about my mom passing away, there was actually a good number of years that I did not want to mourn. I kind of bottled those emotions until I was on campus with he's actually worked for the university. His name is Rob Otis, and he works for a campus initiative called InterVarsity, and I had a sit-down conversation with him, and I just like openly wept, and it was like the first time in a good long time that I had actually processed those emotions about me losing my mom. And so there's a couple of moments where the scripture Romans 8 is actually like tattooed on the under of the arm, and you see that also in the end credits that Brandon has that tattoo. And so my faith has been like an integral part of me processing those emotions. And Romans 8 talks about our identity being someone bigger than ourselves, and being adopted as sons and daughters of Jesus. So like having that in mind, having our identity in something greater than what's in that moment, of going through the struggles, the pain of post-traumatic stress disorder, of abuse, of everything in life, being rooted in knowing that tattoo of Romans 8, knowing that we're still worth fighting for, is something that like is very integral and key to my heart. And all of that, most of that was processed and realized in retrospect after shooting the film. So.
It's very real, very raw, very moving, very good.
Thank you.
All right, we have time maybe for one or two more.
I was gonna say, how many of you guys had script ideas before you came to the class? How many of you had to kind of just come up with something in class?
I cut an entire scene. The 12 hours of shooting that just got cut, and they were not all supposed to die heist. So like I will say, like just in general, I know that there was rewriting on the set. You know, and sometimes people just couldn't show up, and sometimes there was like a half hour before we were shooting, we were rewriting. So for me, it was crazy.
completely went through the script, like multiple revisions, and then the still idea just kept bothering me, and I kept thinking about it, so I was on the way to track meets each weekend, and I was writing it down more, and then I presented it to David, and I was like, I have this other idea, and it was just like way late in the process, and he's like, just go for it, finish it out, and then it became a movie, so, yeah. Thanks, but yeah, so we did a lot of rewriting.
I think we all kind of, especially with the script that's really done, I definitely kind of feel that sentiment that I had a script and it changed, times, whatever, but I'm still not done with, but it's not static, I'm not done with it. No one here is really. It's never really ending story. You kind of get into a groove, of course, you get what idea what you want, but you can't finish it until you really have the budget. Or really the maturity to realize what shot you want. So in that sense, I wish I had some certain shots. I'm glad I have what I have, and it's not done yet. So welcome to I will sell really soon. Wait for that next year.
Well, thank you guys very much. One thing I just want to point out that just sort of suddenly occurred to me, well, it just suddenly occurred to me, I was aware of this all along, but one thing that's sort of remarkable is how each of these folks, and by the way, I've had these students in the intro class and now the pilot intermediate class, and so I feel like in some ways I've sort of grown up with you guys in this whole process of filmmaking. And so I've got to know you pretty well, having lived and breathed with you for 2 semesters and late hours in the lab, etc. during the intro class. And you all came to the table, many of you came to the table with you developed your ideas in the class. And what strikes me is, first of all, how personal each of these stories are, and how much I do think they really reflect who you are, and how unique each of them are from each other. It's something that really struck me watching them all back to back. I thought we had a wonderfully eclectic array of films in terms of genre, and they really felt to me like they came really from you, and that was really remarkable for me to see. And I just want to say thank you to you guys, by the way, for an excellent semester and for a fantastic set of films. And so,
Thank you,
guys.
Thank you for birthday!
We're going down the hall. Thanks again, everybody.